Just get to
That's
Bret.
okay. Bret Baier is the anchor of Special Report weekdays at 5 p.m. on Fox News Channel and the author of 3 Days in January. Good morning, Bret.
Morning.
Good to be talking to you. I imagine you could write a book, another book, about your interview yesterday with the author James Comey. That was quite a moment in Special Report history, I would say.
Yeah. 30 minutes in April or something. Yeah.
There you go.
It was really interesting. I think, to his credit, he came in, he answered the questions. He left and said he thought it was tough but fair, and I'm always looking for that, tough but fair.
It's Friday. Winners and losers on Special Report. My winner would be Bret Baier for his interview with James Comey. My loser would be James Comey for his interview with Bret Baier, but I'm a little biased. Was the most startling moment this?
When did you learn that the DNC and Hillary Clinton campaign had funded Christopher Steele's work?
Yeah, I still don't know that for a fact.
What do you mean?
I've only seen it in the media. I never knew exactly which Democrats had funded. I knew it was funded first by Republicans, opposed to Donald.
But that's not true.
That's not true. Bret, it isn't often that you say that to an interviewee.
No, especially the former FBI director. But it's not true, and that has been litigated. Up on Capitol Hill, they went through a lot of roundabouts about what exactly happened. And the Free Beacon and Paul Singer, conservative, funded and kind of put on retainer that company, Fusion GPS. Didn't really get anything out of it, didn't activate it. The hiring of the former spy, Christopher Steele, and the work on the dossier specifically came from the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign funding. So that had been kind of discussed and settled on Capitol Hill, and I was kind of surprised that Comey said that.
Bret, I just want to congratulate you. You have found the one person in the country who is not familiar with the word collusion. I found the whole thing, your whole interview, I thought was great. But between he doesn't know what collusion, he's not familiar with the word, I believe is how he phrased it, and the fact that he incriminated his friend, the professor, and pretty much him as now an agent of the FBI or working with the FBI, isn't he now guilty? Isn't he, in fact, the leaker? And should he not be charged?
Yeah, so I went down that road, and that was another astonishing thing, that what he released, he does not call a leak. And the terminology, I read the FBI protocol and what he signed on his employment agreement. I kind of went down that road. I think what's interesting is that the Inspector General talked to Comey about his handling of the memos and where that goes as far as what was classified and when and who had what. We know from our reporting that Patrick Fitzgerald, in your neck of the woods, had the memos, and then the FBI at some point later had to go scrub his computer because it had classified material on it.
Bret, there's a cornucopia of stuff here. I mean, right from the outset, you start asking him about the drafting of the exoneration of Hillary Clinton, that he did it beforehand, and he had, a reasonable excuse for that. But then he gets into the legal standard, and it sounded like gobbledygook to me.
I probably should have said really sloppy, but I wanted to be honest and say it's above sloppy. It doesn't add up to what the 1917 statute meant when it said grossly negligent is a felony.
But here's the problem, Bret. So negligence is carelessness. And above that is being grossly negligent, which is the same thing as being extremely careless. And he was trying to draw a distinction between the two, but there is no distinction between the two. And,
yeah, I agree. And I was trying to draw that out. I was also trying to kind of draw out the disparity between how the Clinton probe was handled and how the Trump probe is handled on various fronts. And he said he didn't see that. So, there were some frustrating parts of the interview, but fortunately, I had a lot of questions to ask, so there were plenty of things and roads to go down.
Well, I give you a lot of credit.
I got to hop off because I got to do a Fox and Friends here.
Go
but
right ahead.
I'm always happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Bret. Appreciate it.
All right.
Bret Baier,
Good day.
Fox News Special Report. Oh, I didn't know what time he has to leave on these things. You should have told me, guys.
Yeah, it's everyone else's fault.
Okay.
Oh, you're like Comey of morning shows. Go ahead.
Or did he cut us off short? Is he like Comey treated him
Hey,
by showing up late.
I'm just
Okay.
happy we get to talk to him. You know, I also want.
He's got a lot of things. He's a busy
There was
man.
so
This is
much
like
of
having
that
Louis
interview.
Prima show up at your restaurant. It was beautiful.
We could have done
Yeah.
an hour because there was so much deception and lies
Well, can
and
I give you-
bald-faced fraud.
Can I give you one thing here?
My recollection was there was a significant amount of additional material about Page and why there was probable cause to believe he was an agent of a foreign power. And the dossier was part of that, but was not all of it or a critical part of it.
Yeah, he said it was part of the mosaic. No, Andrew McCabe, his deputy, said it was the sine qua non. But for the dossier, you don't have the FISA warrant. And I didn't get to ask Bret about that, and I didn't get to ask him about the fact that he interviewed the Dalai Lama and asked him about
you're right.
Caddyshack.
Listen,
Come on.
more importantly, this thing, it was like a chapter out of The Fatal Conceit. It really was. How he at one point would speak as a founding father about equality and liberty. And the other thing he said, that he believes that Lady Liberty has a blindfold on for a reason and she should
Right.
keep it. He really means gag when he says something like a private citizen should not call for the investigation of a case they're not involved with. These people do not want or acknowledge representative government. They like it in the shadows because you know what? For 20 years, this guy was in the shadows, and he was doing the same thing he did here with Trump.
Yeah, just to show you how evasive Comey was with Bret Baier yesterday, here he is talking about Cheryl Mills.
My understanding was at that time she was one of Clinton's attorneys. She was no longer a subject in our investigation. The agents had scrubbed her conduct very carefully by that point, and she was no longer a subject. But that, again, that's a reasonable question. But the facts are, not a subject, one of Clinton's lawyers. She's entitled to be in an interview.
But the problem is it's a question-begging exercise by Comey because he says she was already scrubbed. No, that's the problem. It was a charade of an investigation, and you should have gotten her to flip on Hillary.
This is why Bret Baier left the interview, because you're leading him down the prairie path. Let him talk. You know, it's like his first day here.
Do I think these things personally? Do you think that he said, I'm tired of this, I want to do something else right now?
Said, what am I
if it had been
doing
Dan
with
and
this
Amy,
guy?
I would have stuck. Would he
See?
have stuck around to 7:30 with Dan and Amy?
Absolutely. Not even a
does he bail like at
question.
7:13 all the time? Where does he go? Where does he go?
Yeah.
What does he have to do that's more important than an interview with Chicago radio?
First of all, he knows you're doing the interview. You don't have a collar on your shirt. You're dressed like you got thrown out of college. Come on, he's Bret Baier, for God's sake.
It was wonderful talking to him. We're going to take a collective breath right now and come back. This is Bruce Wolf and
He's
Shaun
on Fox
Thompson.
right now. He wasn't lying.
Oh, he's on TV
feel good
right
about
now.
yourself. So at least
So